विहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारि यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारि यमुना तीरावनचारि राधा माधव कुंज विहारी श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव सुभद्रा जय सुदर्शन जय गोपाल देव जय गोपाल देव गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय प्रभुपदा श्रील प्रभुपदा भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपदा जय श्रीपदा वैष्णव ठाकुर जय श्रीपदा जय जय श्रीपाद जय गुरु महाराज श्रील श्रीपाद की जय जय जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय जय संवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. So today we are reading from the Bhagavatam 6th canto chapter 17 verse number 8 and 9. That chapter is titled Prescribed Duties for Mankind. Text number 8. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Budhiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatiruttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naishiki. So, text number 8. Prayasha prakritashapi Sriyam rahasi bibrati Ayam mahabratadharo Bhibarti sadasi striyam Prayasha prakritashapi Striyam rahasi bibrati Ayam mahabratadharo Bhibarti sadasi striyam. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Ordinary conditioned persons generally embrace their wives and enjoy their company in solitary places. How wonderful it is that Lord Mahadev, although a great master of austerity, is embracing his wife openly in the midst of an assembly of great saints. Purport by Prabhupada. The word Mahavratadhara indicates a brahmachari who has never fallen down. Lord Shiva is counted among the best of the yogis, yet he embraced his wife in the midst of great saintly persons. Chitraketu appreciated how great Lord Shiva was to be unaffected even in that situation. Therefore, Chitraketu was not an offender, he merely expressed his wonder. Text number 9. Shri Shuka Vacha Bhagavan api tachrutva Prahasyagada nripa Tushnim bhabuva sadasi Sabhyascha tadanuvratah. Shri Shuka Vacha Bhagavan api tachrutva Prahasyagada nripa Tushnim bhabuva sadasi Sabhyascha tadanuvratah. Translation. Srila Sukadeva Goswami continued. My dear king, after hearing Chitraketu's statement, Lord Shiva, the most powerful personality whose knowledge is fathomless, simply smiled and remained silent. And all the members of the assembly followed the Lord by not saying anything. Purport. Chitraketu's purpose in criticizing Lord Shiva is somewhat mysterious and cannot be understood by a common man. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, however, has made the following observations. Lord Shiva, being the most exalted Vaishnava and one of the most powerful demigods, is able to do anything he desires. Although he was externally exhibiting the behavior of a common man and not following etiquette, such actions cannot diminish his exalted position. The difficulty is that a common man, seeing Lord Shiva's behavior, might follow his example. Stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 21, Yadyad acharati shreshtas tattad evetaro jana sa yat pramanam kurute lokas tad anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. A common man might also criticize Lord Shiva like Daksha, who suffered the consequences for his criticism. King Chitraketu desired that Lord Shiva sees this external behavior so that others might be saved from criticizing him and thus become offenders. If one thinks that Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the only perfect personality, whereas the demigods, even such exalted demigods like Lord Shiva, are inclined to improper social affairs, he is an offender. Considering all this, King Chitraketu was somewhat harsh in his behavior with Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, who is always deep in knowledge and could understand Chitraketu's purpose, and therefore he was not at all angry. Rather, he simply smiled and remained silent. And the members of the assembly surrounding Lord Shiva, who could also understand Chitraketu's purpose, the members of the assembly surrounding Lord Shiva could also understand Chitraketu's purpose. Consequently, following the behavior of Lord Shiva, they did not protest. Instead, following their master, they remained silent. If the members of the assembly thought that Chitraketu had blasphemed Lord Shiva, they would certainly have left at once, blocking their ears with their hands. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swaminiti Namine Nama Sadbhaktamanaye Manipurudbhavaya Cha Prabhupada Sadvani Prachara Niratayate Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashyatade Satarine Vancha Kalpatarurvyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Sankirtanam Jasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamana Tam Namami Harim Param Sansara Sagare Magnam Deenam Mam Karunanide Karmagrahya Grihitangam Mam Uddhara Bhavarnavat Srimad Bhagavatam Akyoyam Pratyaksha Krishna Evahi Svikritosi Mayanata Mukhyartam Bhavasagare. So this Bhagavatam is in this particular two verses, it is talking about the power of the speech, right? The words, not only, and the intention behind those words when you speak, especially as devotees of the Lord, somebody who's aspiring to be a devotee of the Lord, even the servant of the devotee of the Lord, one has to be very, very careful. One has to be very, very careful. Our Vidurji is saying in his Vidur Niti that a forest, right, one huge forest, if it is pierced with arrows and cut with the axe, it can again flourish and come back, right? You see, there is so much deforestation. People are cutting down all the trees, and because of that, the whole climate change is there. There's so much heat all over. There's global warming. If somebody is doing that, but still, somehow some other people can plant the trees, or even if you cut the tree can sometimes come back. It can again flourish. But if somebody is causing a wound, with bitter speech, then that kind of wound, it never heals. Can never heal. This is there in the Vidur Niti. And then he is saying again that this Vachana and Bana. Vachana means words, and Bana is the arrow. Both of them, they hurt the heart of a man, as a result of which the man who has been hurt is badly affected day and night. Hence, a learned man should be very cautious while speaking. These are the instructions by Vidurji. And the same Vidurji was at the receiving end of these insults. From whom? From his nephew, Duryodhana. Although he was born as a Dasiputra, still Vidur was the most enlightened person at those times. And his devotion was so great that Lord Krishna personally went to his house, rejecting all these thousands and thousands of wonderful, items that Duryodhana had made, a huge feast which was arranged for the Lord. When the Lord came as a messenger on behalf of the Pandavas to stop the war, so Duryodhana had arranged all these items, but rejecting all that, the Lord went to Vidura's place. So you can understand. Such a exalted personality like Vidur, and you see how Duryodhana is insulting him. This is there in the Bhagavatam, in the 3rd canto, the 15th verse in the 1st chapter. Who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress? He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Throw him out from the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. His own uncle, right? And Duryodhana is speaking in front of all these people, like his own father, Dhritarashtra, and, his brother, Sakuni, Karna, and, some of his brothers. Duryodhana is insulting his uncle like this. Who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress? It's obvious. Everybody knows that. And then he's so crooked, he spies in the interest of the enemy. Vidur was the only straightforward person in that whole group among the Kauravas. His advice was always infallible. Whatever advice he gave, it turned out to be, most beneficial for the entire Kuru dynasty. And then he's saying, throw him out from the palace, toss him out, and, beat him, cane him with a cane so badly that he's having only his breath left. Nothing else should be remaining. This is how he insulted him. And all Vidur was saying is that, don't hold this gambling match. Your cousins, your brothers, this will lead to enmity, and, there is a possibility of fighting between you. Don't do this. This is all he said. And this is a reaction. So you see, this words, one has to be very, 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 very careful. I've seen many instances, Guru Maharaj used to maintain this dignified silence. You ask him something, he never replies at once. I don't know if many of you have experienced this. So many instances, Maharaj used to keep the silence. It was very dignified silence, because sometimes your silence, it speaks more than your words. Silence, it can speak much more than your words. And then again, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 17th chapter, 15th verse, it is said, there is an austerity of speech. It's not that because you have the power to speak, you can speak anything you want. There is tapasya even in speech. Austerity. It is tavam. It is tapam. Tapa. And this austerity includes these things. You speak truthfully, you speak beneficially, and avoid anything that offends. You don't speak anything that offends. And then it is said, one should recite the Vedas regularly. Communication, right? Generally, when you speak, you're either trying to communicate something or you're trying to receive some communication. You want to know something. So these 4 are the cardinal rules. The first thing, Satyam Bruvat, always speak truthfully. The second thing is Priyam Bruvat. Priyam means not just pleasing, not only pleasing, but it also should be beneficial. It should be beneficial to you, it should be beneficial to them, it should be beneficial to all those who are hearing that. That is the best kind of speech. It should be truthful, Priyam, it should be beneficial and pleasing. The third thing is that it should be backed by authority. Backed by authority means you're quoting the scriptures, actually. You should say something which the authorities have recognized and accepted. And by this, we mean the words of the Acharyas, the words of the Parampara, the words which the Lord himself is mentioning, and the words from the Vedic literatures. And then do not speak anything to offend others. Speak the truth, speak pleasing, speak what is beneficial, and speak something which is backed by authority. And somebody is able to do these things, you see that words will carry weight. You speak something which is backed by authority, you can always say, like, oh, this authority said that, so I'm not to blame. Like our Subhak Maharaj always he says this, right? He says, oh, I'm not saying this. Prabhupada said this. I'm not saying this. Prabhupada said this. So, and everybody accepts Prabhupada as authority. So when we are saying the words or the statements of authorities, we are speaking the words of the Shastras, Veda Vakyam, then, your words, they carry weight. Nobody can deny that. Nobody can, how do you say, cross over this thing. Because Shastra, the word Shas Dhatu is there. Shas means to control, actually, to bring under control. So either Shastra means Vedic scriptures, or Shastra. Shastra means Astra, along with the Astras. You can either control a person by using weapons, or you use the better option, which is the Shastras. You quote the Vedic scriptures and you can do it. So here, the Lord is also saying, one should also recite the Vedas regularly. Swadhyaya. Pancharatra, in the Pancharatra mode of worship, you see there are different angas are there. But then the final one is Swadhyaya. One should always constantly keep reciting these Vedic literature so that one purifies himself. All these mantras are actually transcendental sound vibrations. They're not ordinary words. I'll tell you an example in the modern contemporary world about a Japanese scientist towards the end of the class. But now, here we are seeing how Chitraketu is talking about Lord Shiva. See, Lord Shiva is Vaishnavanam Yatasham, Mahadev. Among all the demigods, he is the most exalted. Like you see so many Atmas, and we say somebody is a Mahatma, right? Mahatma means somebody who is a very exalted person. He's not an ordinary person. And even among the demigods, 33 crores, Lord Shiva is considered to be Mahadev. So he's the most exalted demigod. He's not an ordinary person. He's left aside everything and he's constantly engaged in chanting the holy names of Lord Ram. Ram, Ram, Rameti, Rame, Rame, Manoram. He's always immersed in, Krishna consciousness. Such an exalted personality, generally, when you're about to talk about him, you should think more than twice, not once, not twice, but anything you're going to talk about such a personality, one should think so much. But here is Chitraketu, and what is he saying? He's saying, you see, he's embracing his wife in the midst of all these saintly people, and he's talking to them about how to control lust. How wonderful is this? Commonly, you see that, men, the most enjoyment they get is from women, the opposite gender. The lady, she's able to satisfy all the senses of a person. Whatever senses you have, everything that lady can satisfy. And, Stri, the word means to expand. Stri means she expands. She not only expands your happiness, she expands all other things also. Your house, your property, your family. She produces children. So that word itself means, expansion. Stri means to expand. So naturally, people, they like most of them, they like to be in the association of ladies, and they love to have this intimate contact with ladies. This is a very, it's a very natural thing in the material world. But somebody like Lord Shiva, who is Mahavratadhara, like Bhishma Dev, he took this vow that my whole life I will remain a brahmachari. I will not marry. And this word Bhishma itself means very, very, how do you say, Ugra, very powerful, very strong, very difficult. Something you cannot surpass. The meaning of that word Bhishma is that, and the demigods, they bestowed this name, they showered flowers on him. Because during those days, these Kshatriyas, they had so many wives, not just one or two. They had like a full harem, 20, 30 wives like that. And Bhishma Dev was in the prime of his youth, he was doing this. So these demigods, they showered flowers on him for taking such a kind of vrata, something which is practically next to impossible to maintain in this material world. For a Kshatriya, a person who is meant to be in the mode of passion. No. So when Bhishma Dev took this this heavenly voice said, Bhishma, this is such a unsurpassable brother. And Lord Shiva is such an exalted personality. Kamadev personally went to agitate Lord Shiva, and nothing happened. He tried everything, and then ultimately Lord Shiva got upset. He opened his third eye and he completely burned Kamadev, Madana, to ashes. And Kalidas, even Prabhupada has commented on this, that Parvati Devi, she was a young girl actually, in the 16, 17 years old, the budding youth. And she's coming, and you see Lord Shiva is always sitting naked and meditating. And she came directly, she put her hands there where you're not supposed to put. And still Lord Shiva remained undisturbed. He has taken such a Mahavrata, such a strong brahmachari. Such a personality, and he is exhibiting such a kind of behavior, and that too in the midst of all these saintly people who are mostly renounced, who are in the renounced order of life, who have given up everything, and they are constantly meditating on the absolute truth. And in front of all these saintly people, if Lord Shiva is, embracing his wife, and he is talking on how to control his lust, not his, how to control lust. See, they say actions speak louder than words, right? You're saying something, but you do the opposite. People will naturally think, that is the right thing, whatever you're doing. They may not give you so much weightage to the words. The doctor is there, he's saying, don't smoke cigarettes, and then he himself is going and smoking. What do you think will happen? So Chitraketu, he was expressing this thing, such a Mahavratadara. He's embracing his wife openly in the midst of this big assembly of all these great saints. And then in the next verse, Sukadeva Goswami is saying, Chitraketu, after hearing this statement from Chitraketu, Lord Shiva simply smiled. Bhagavan, he is so powerful. And then he is as good as the Lord, Supreme Lord himself. And then he said, whose knowledge is fathomless. Lord Shiva is not somebody like Prabhupada used to say, a poor fund of knowledge. Lord Shiva has unlimited knowledge because he knows the Supreme Personality of God. He is constantly meditating on the Supreme Lord, Krishna. So, such a personality, he immediately understood, what was the intention behind Chitraketu's words. And, he just kept quiet and he smiled. Okay, that's nice. And all those members, all those great saintly people in the assembly, they also followed Lord Shiva because he is authority, and they also kept quiet. So naturally, the question comes, was Chitraketu's behavior offensive? Now, how dare he speak about Lord Shiva in this way? It's like you're openly criticizing that person. And Prabhupada is saying, no, he was not an offender, because had he offended Lord Shiva, being magnanimous would have kept quiet, but the followers of Lord Shiva, they would have immediately protested, they would have closed their ears and they would have left the scene. I said, when somebody offends your guru, you either, you cut down that person, you can practically kill that person. The Shastra is going to that extreme. Or, you cut out his tongue or rip out his tongue, or, you leave that place. You close your ears, you leave that place immediately. One should not tolerate blasphemy of great devotees. What to speak of Lord Shiva, who is an acharya in his own right, and he has a parampara, he's a whole Rudra Sampradaya is beginning from Lord Shiva. Such a personality like Lord Shiva. But the whole point is that why Chitraketu was speaking is again somewhat mysterious. This is what Prabhupada is writing in the purpose. And we ordinary people, we cannot understand. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that, though Lord Shiva is powerful and he can do whatever he wants, still, this externally, depicting this kind of common behavior that normal people do, not following the proper etiquette, this thing, these common people, they may think that this is an example that we have to follow. Teji asam na doshaya. Tejas, somebody who is very, very powerful, such a personality, na doshaya. Actually, they don't have any faults. They can do anything, and these sinful reactions, they don't touch these people. They are that powerful. And Prabhupada gives the example of the sun. The sun can go to a place where there is urine, stool, and all that, and the sun rays can actually purify that place. But if ordinary people like us, we come into contact with these kind of things, we have to immediately take a bath and purify ourselves. But the sun has that capacity to even purify such dirty, contaminated places. Like that, these powerful people, Lord Shiva, he can drink the whole ocean of poison, and still he can remain unaffected. But we ordinary living entities, we cannot imitate this kind of behavior. But the thing is that when they do sometimes things like that, ordinary people may think, see, he is a leader, he is acharya, he is setting an example, so let me also follow. This problem comes. In Vrindavan, there are so many Babajis, and some of them, they belong to the Rudra Sampradaya, not the bona fide Sampradaya, of course. So, they think Lord Shiva, because he drank poison, so they offer him bang, ganja, bang. They make it very nicely. They roll up a huge bang gola, round ball, and then they offer it to Lord Shiva, and then they say, this is Shiv Prasad, and they eat that. They're thinking, Lord Shiva can take poison, I can also take something, like this. This is what happens. So this thing was what Chitraketu was indicating. His purpose was that, because you're in an exalted position, you're a Sreshta person, you're in a top position. And if you do something like this, normal people will also follow you. So my Lord, you should, they will criticize you, or, and they will become offenders. So, please, you kindly refrain from such kind of activities. It will bewilder the mind of ordinary people. This was his intention. And Lord Shiva understood that. So what he did, he kept quiet. And he smiled. Yes. And all the people who are sitting there, the great, great saints who were listening to Lord Shiva's discourse, they also smiled and kept quiet. So, you see, the important thing is that when you're addressing somebody exalted, one has to be very, very careful. And sometimes you do it with all good intentions, and still you can go to hell. And you'll see later how Mother Parvati is cursing Chitraketu simply for making a statement like this. Although his intention was good. And then I said, I will talk about this, the power of words, thoughts and thing. There is this very famous scientist. He passed away in 2014. His name is, just 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, his name is Masaru Emoto. He's a Japanese scientist. He completely revolutionized this idea that our thoughts, our words, our intentions, they impact the physical realm. And, this experiment he did was based on water. So you used to collect water from the different sources, right? Ordinary tap water, water from a mountain, water from snowflakes, water from a sewage, and, water from, maybe the industrial waste, like this, different qualities of waters. And then he froze it. He froze the water. And under, what do you call this thing? He studied the structure under magnetic resonance analysis technology. the structure of this frozen water, there are different kind of crystals were found. He was seeing that under this magnetic resonance. He was examining under this thing. And he saw that water from bad sources, right, from the industrial waste or sewage, it looked very ugly. You can see the pictures there. You can type down his name and you can see there are so many pictures. The water looks very distorted and very horrible, blackish and like that, right? But the water from clear sources, it had a very beautiful, nice crystalline structure. Everything was very beautiful. Very nice, beautiful pictures came up. Then he took two water, ordinary tap water, two. One is a control, and then there are two more. And to one water, he was saying very nice words. You are very wonderful. You are very gorgeous. You are very beautiful. I'm so thankful you are there in my life to nourish me and like that. To one, the same tap water, one is a control group and there are two other samples. To one group, he was speaking all these wonderful words, nice words, encouraging words, love, peace, eternity, like that. And then to the other one, he was just giving all kind of bad words to them. So there are three, the same water. One is a control group. It had a normal structure. And the one where he spoke all these beautiful words to, you see, it formed so beautifully. The pictures you can see, it is amazing. The ordinary one, there was not much clarity in the structure, but the ones he spoke all these loving words to, the water under the magnetic resonance imaging, it gives such beautiful crystalline structures, is amazing actually. And the same tap water where he was speaking all these bad words, you see that water became very ugly. The pictures that came out was very horrible. And human body is mostly comprised of water, right? Even the Earth planet is mostly water. The place where we are staying. And he had this book, The Hidden Messages in Water. It was a New York Times bestseller. And he's demonstrating how this water, when it's exposed to loving, benevolent, and compassionate human intentions through words, it results in, aesthetically pleasing physical molecular formations. While the water, which was exposed to fearful and discordant human intentions, result in disconnected, disfigured, and very unpleasant physical molecular transformation. So you see, when we are offering prasadam to the Lord, and when you're chanting these mantras, Namo Om Vishnu Padaya, Hare Krishna, and then you say, my Lord, you please take it. Simply, even these mantras, they can purify that food. Now, what to speak about? Actually, the Lord himself tasting it, and because he is Purna, complete, he leaves it back. Can you imagine the potency in that food and water that you're offering the Lord? This is not just with water, right? Everything. So when we chant, this vibration, the sound vibration, it vibrates across the cosmos 7 times. It goes across, it rebounds 7 times. And it completely purifies the atmosphere, actually. There are so many instances, in Bengal, there was a plague. And Prabhupada remembered, as a child, there was this huge plague. Many people were dying. And simply, the Babaji, he collected all these devotees. They went out, they did a massive Sankirtan. And just after that Sankirtan, everything became normal. So you can see the power of words, sound. So one has to be very, very cautious, very cautious. We are running, there are other examples where the contrary result is there. Like Shishupal, he was blaspheming the Lord, right? Lord Krishna, who's accepted as a supreme personality, and before the Rajsuya Yajna, Bhishma Dev and all these big saintly people, they accepted, yes, he's a person who is meant to receive the worship. He's a supreme person, and he's the one who is supposed to get all the adoration and worship. And they placed him on this throne, but Shishupal couldn't take it. And he comes and he blasphemes, so many blasphemies. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he's all these words which Shishupal gave, he was giving the opposite meaning of that. See, the devotees, because their heart is always attached to the Supreme Lord, they cannot tolerate these things. And even when somebody is blaspheming the Lord, they take these words and, they construct the opposite meaning of this blasphemy, and they think that this person is glorifying the Supreme Lord. So that's why the words of devotees are very powerful, their actions even more powerful, and the intentions are the most powerful. The intention of a devotee to make somebody else a devotee of the Lord, that intention alone, sometimes it carries so much weightage. But when somebody is not a devotee, harava bhaktasya kuto mahatpuna, that person's intention is not good, that person's action is not good, his words also, even though they may be very sweetly, very flowery language, still ultimately you will be, you will not get the real benefit. So that's why sometimes sadhus, they can be very harsh. It's like a coconut, very hard shell outside. Apparently outside they are very hard, but inside you see is very soft, tender. So unless one is in the position of a guru or a superior, and unless the person who is at the receiving end of your words or instructions or whatever you're giving that person, he is accepting that, it is always better to remain silent. Even if you're authority, sometimes you may have to speak so many things, but then still you should consider all these things. Am I speaking to a senior person? Am I speaking to a devotee of the Lord? All these things, one has to be very, very careful. And the words that come out from his mouth, it should be very measured, very calculated, and to the point. Not that just because you can speak, you speak anything. You have to be very, very careful. Because once these words pierce the heart, that damage is irreparable, I tell you. Day and night, that person will be meditating on that, and whatever little relationship you have with that person will go down the drain. So, this thing, Chitraketu's purpose, although his intention is good, you see the final result, because he spoke like this to a personality like Lord Shiva, you see the consequences of his speech. He could have just smiled and he could have gone on his way. What is the need for commenting like this? But still, it is a blessing in disguise, because although he was cursed by Mother Parvati, ultimately he was able to go back to Godhead very easily. So sometimes, even if the devotees curse us, it becomes a blessing. So that's why one should be very, very tolerant. Hapta, Shapta, Shipta, Hata, Pihi. Even if they curse us, they beat us, they even kill us, and Na tasya pratikurvanti, we don't react back, we don't take revenge. Mad bhakta prabhavo apihi. Although devotees may be very powerful, still they tolerate all this. And simply because of this tolerance, Krishna very easily takes them back home, back to God. So I think I will stop here. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Are there any questions, any suggestions, or any comments? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for this wonderful class. Yes, if anyone is having any question regarding today's class, they can raise the hand and ask His Grace Madan Manohar Prabhuji. Yeah, Prabhuji, could you repeat those 4 things that we should follow while you mentioned while you are saying about?
Yeah. Satyam Bruvet, always speak the truth, because once you start lying, you have to cover up that lies with so many lies again. It's like how do you say? It's like this atomic thing. This fusion technology. We say that one burst, the other burst, the other burst, like that. It is a chain reaction. So you lie once, then you have to keep lying so many times to cover up that. So Satyam Bruvet, speak the truth. Try as far as possible to speak the truth. It is also mentioned that Mother Earth, she can tolerate the weights of millions of oceans and hills and mountains, but she cannot bear the weight of one liar. One person who lies, she cannot tolerate the weight of that one person. So you'd always remember to speak the truth. And if you're speaking about the absolute truth, that is even more wonderful. You can speak about Krishna directly, is the most beneficial thing. So speak the truth. Priyam. Priyam means speak it in a pleasing way. You can say, Prabhu, please sit here. This is one way. And say, Prabhu, sit here. You understand? When you're speaking also, that words should be spoken in a very pleasing way. Third thing, it should be beneficial to all concerned. Just because you feel like talking, you don't do prajalpa. Vacho vegam, manasa vegam. We have to control that. Simply because we can speak, we have the power to speak. We should not keep on speaking nonsense. We should speak something which is actually beneficial to the person who's hearing, to all those who are hearing, and also for you also. It should be something which is beneficial. So when you speak about Krishna, it purifies you. Your words are engaged in Krishna Seva. So you purify yourself, and the persons who are hearing, they are also getting purified. That's why you see everywhere in the Bhagavatam, they ask some nice question about the Lord, and immediately the response is that, oh, what you are speaking is so wonderful. These questions you have raised is so wonderful because it is about the Lord. And like the Ganges, which purifies all the three regions, the upper loka, the middle planets, and the lower thing, all the three people, the speaker, the hearer, and all those who are there nearby, they are all purified. So you speak something truthful, you speak something which is pleasing, you speak what is beneficial to all, and finally, you speak what is backed by authority. You quote the authority. So Krishna is saying, you do this. The Lord is saying, you chant my holy names. Yajnanam japa yajyosmi. Among all the yajna sacrifices, I am japa yajna. I'm chanting. Chanting is an eternal job. It's not something we are just doing it here now only in Kali Yuga. When you go back to the spiritual world in the liberated position also, you will be running about chanting Krishna's names. It's not an ordinary activity. Don't think as something you're doing just to get out from this material world to be liberated. It is something you will do even on the liberated platform, and that is what you will be constantly doing there. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So these four things: truth, pleasing, beneficial, and finally backed by authority. Then your communication is real nice. It is good. Okay.
Yeah. So all the four need to be followed, or
you are an educated person. Use your intelligence. God-given intelligence you have to use. So I cannot say anything more than that.
Yeah, because people in general follow them nicely, independently, but not collectively. So that is the reason why I am asking the question.
So you try to set an example for those people by following all the four things at all the times. Like Prabhupada said, you follow the four regulative principles. It is meant for everybody at all times. Otherwise, you're not even on the human platform, right? Simply, we are like animals if you don't do that. The same thing. Same thing. If one is able to do that, you see, your words, they will be so auspicious, they will create such a nice effect. And whatever you say will come true. You get Vak Siddhi actually. Simply if you follow these things. You continuously do this for 12 years, and you see at the end of 12 years, whatever you speak, that will happen.
Thank you,
If it's true. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Our Govind Maharaj is having something. Maharaj, please.
Dandavat Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
All glories to Sripad. So
Jai, all glories Maharaj.
You are propagating truth. That's good. Well, couple of things I wanted to ask. One with regard to Lord Shiva and one regarding this truth. You added 2 points. But the reference which you used, Satyam Bruyat.
Priyam
Bruyat. And Ma Bruyat, Satyam Apriyam, correct?
Asatyam. Okay.
So 2 things are included. 2 things you, in your very wonderful things you added, And there is we can also can benefit from the whole shloka, which appears also, and we can have, instead of just 4, we can have the additional 2 things. The whole shloka says, Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat. Ne bruyat, satyam apriyam, correct? Then it says, priyam cha na nritam bruyat. Esha dharma sanatana. So in Sanatana Dharma, just like the Subhashitas, so in another collection of wonderful wisdom, this shloka is one of the collections. So it's the later part of the shloka says, Priyam che nanitam bruyat. Never speak untruth, which might be pleasant. Never speak truth, which is unpleasant to others. But never speak untruth, which might be pleasant. That is also. Yeah. This is the path of eternal morality, Sanatana Dharma. So here, my question was regarding when we consider truth, because there is no absolute truth in this world. Srila Prabhupada, in the translation of that this proverb which you quoted, that it's only in relation to the material truths, but because material truths are relative, many things, direction, time, space, even, so many things we can discuss about the truth being perceived by you from one angle, from another angle, it could not be, it could not match. But, so, with that regard, even following all these 6 things, we must be directed towards the absolute truth, Krishna. That's why Prabhupada says that only in relation to material truth, but when it comes to the absolute truth or moving forward in our spiritual journey, we should be able to sacrifice the so-called truth clinging to, because ultimately what happens, being good is because people form their own opinion as to what is truth, what is not truth, correct?
Yeah, Maharaj, that is true.
It's just like one thought, then you reply. So when I say that I am truthful, then it's just like one example, because without example the audience won't be. Just as if I say that the sky is blue, correct?
Yeah.
Even small children who are just just studying primary education, primary school, they might correct us, correct? The color of the sky is not blue; it just appears to be blue, correct? So when I say I am truthful, either I am ignorant or I am being egotist, correct? Or I am truthful. It is just a belief, correct?
Yeah, it appears you are truthful for now.
Yeah. So one can ask first this question: am I really truthful? Have I seen all dimensions of this truth? So it's just like when we speak about Srimad, his manifestation is of humility, and somebody may just imitate or act or behave as if humble, but the ultimate thing is being good is better than feeling good, correct? Or doing good, acting good, and living good. But have you become good? Similarly, when we propagate this truthfulness, being truthful to oneself and to others, which include, then you can include all the 6 qualities. It should be beneficial to others, backed by the authorities. But untruthful, we should not speak. The whole idea is this religion binds us to this worldly affairs and worldly positive, negative. But we must move ahead of them. Prabhupada says that they are only in relation to material things. So I want your comment on that and how we can.
Maharaj, I remember, like Prabhupada used to say, This in the forest, right? All the trees which are straight, they get cut fast. They get cut first. And those crooked trees, most of them, they are still surviving there. They remain actually, because it's not only difficult to cut them, but it's very difficult to also transport them because they are not very straight and long, right? So what Prabhupada was implying is that because we are in the material world means cheaters and cheated. We are dealing with people like of these two categories. Either somebody is cheating you or you're getting cheated or whatever. So this category of people, sometimes, it is better to be a little crooked, you used to say. But crooked because you're dealing with people like that. If you're going to be very straightforward, very honest and very good and all that, it is not going to work with people like that. But when you're dealing with saintly people, when you're dealing with the Lord directly, the Supreme Personality, then you become very sarla. You become, as simple as a child. You become completely dependent on that. Because that is beneficial to you in the sense that because they are on a higher platform, if they give you mercy, you will really be on that platform. You can also get up to that platform. But when you're dealing with common people, the best thing is to avoid. Aratir Jana Samsadi, you don't go to these places where, these common people have all these kind of talks and this thing. You try to avoid. And because they are not able to see, what is what. They don't know the real picture. Most of them are in ignorance. You try to avoid. But then when you are dealing with a devotee group, then, one has to be very, very simple, straightforward and, very open. So that way, I think, I feel personally that a person can advance. But if you're going to display duplicity to those kind of people who are eternally your well-wishers, then, even in hell, you will not get a place. This is my understanding. You have to create something special for people like that. Those who are even to their own well-wishers, always their well-wishers. Eternally, the devotees are the well-wishers. They don't even think anything bad or think anything for the loss of the other person. They're always thinking about the welfare and, the upgradation or benefit of that person. Such kind of people, if you're going to be very duplicitous and you're not very straightforward and truthful, even hell will not be a proper place for you. You have to create something special for you. This is my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, Maharaj.
Beautiful. That's why the spiritual perspective has to rule us rather than this virtuous truthfulness. Right? Because in Kali Yuga, non-virtuous people and those who do not follow truth will be instantly successful in this Kali Yuga. We see this, correct?
Yeah.
So, but that would be temporary, as we know from spiritual point of view, because every karma has its reaction and bondage. So just being truthful does not help you sometimes. Our responsibility is not over by just being truthful in this age. You will need to use intelligence and intuition to survive. Because sometimes by playing so-called truth, we put ourselves in trouble. Correct? Then our spiritual perfection journey is blocked. So survival is a big issue in this Kali Yuga. In the name of truthful, people will just eat you right and left. You have double-edged task, they say in English, correct? Double-edged task. दोनों तरफ से खतरा. सत्य बोलो तो भी फंसे और नहीं बोलो तो भी फंसे.
झूठ बोले तो.
Yeah. So, but that was not in other yugas. Other yugas, the effect of even this truth in behavior was.
Yeah, Maharaj.
They just saying that God sees the truth, but He waits.
Yeah.
So one has to be ready if he's so stuck with his so-called material truth and all these ideals. Sometimes you may have to lie to fight lie. Somebody is lying, then you have to fight lie with lie. Though we should follow the path of truth. Yeah. So one thing came the idea. I'm just if I have the little lineage to speak a couple of more minutes.
Maharaj, please go ahead, Maharaj.
In our Sanatan Dharma, this Vedic Dharma,
yeah,
the proponents of non-violence and dharma, all the devatas are proponents of non-violence and dharma, correct? And still they carry the weapons. Just think of this scenario in the name of truth. You know, it's like contrast, it's a paradox. But all of them carry weapons, and we see that. But they are all proponents of non-violence and where the weapons come. So the stories we hear in Puranas, in Hitopadesh, Mahabharata, they describe that even Devatas fought violence with violence to sustain non-violence and dharma, correct?
Yeah.
So if one says, oh, I'm non-violent, this is the truth, you know, ahimsa parmo dharma, correct? And then people will just eat you up, and you will be deprived to perfect, to endeavor for perfection of this human potential. So that's why the time is very, very critical. So the question is, how can we lead a truthful life, and how can we fight lies? This is a big challenge, correct? So we cannot be just isolate ourselves in different time, place, and circumstance, and just close our eyes and, oh, I'm truthful, so I'm just protected. But when Krishna also gave you eyes, not to just shut the eyes, but to look and just think what's going to happen. The time is critical. You know? So in ultimately, we have to realize, we have to find our attraction to the absolute truth, Krishna. Then in relation to our relation with him, we can adjust truth and untruth, because in this relative world, nothing can be described as absolute truth. That unless someone, I have another question regarding Lord Shiva.
Yeah, Raj.
Am I allowed, Sanatanji?
Yes,
he can't say no, Maharaj.
Oh, he's very, very accommodating. I agree. But the whole idea is you brought the point of Lord Shiva, but Lord Shiva himself became affected. You know. So among the conditioned souls, Lord Shiva stands very high. You know? Even in relation to this influence of material lust in him, and he's called Yogeshwar. But Yogeshwar, and Krishna is called Yogeshwar. So I was wondering, what is the difference of the two in relation to the thought which came to my mind, but in relation to Lord Shiva also became, you know, his brahmacharya was violated. You know the story, correct?
You're talking about Mohini Avatar, Maharaj?
Of course.
Okay.
So how we put other devotees in relation to this winning over the lust, Lord Shiva, and what is the difference between Yogeshwar and Yogeshwar, which Krishna is?
Okay. Among the different categories of yogis, Lord Shiva is like one of the, you know, he's like one of the main one. But, you know, even among all these people, you know, those who are like this, there may be so many exalted people almost on the same level as Lord Shiva. Prabhupada was making that point, right? He said, if you think only Krishna is perfect, if you think only my guru is perfect and, you know, nobody else can be perfect, or, you know, up to that level, if you think like that, even that becomes offensive, actually. There are people who even Lord Krishna goes and bows down. He is the supreme personality of Godhead, no doubt. And, you know, nobody can be equal to him or above him. But even Lord Krishna, he accepts that, yes, this person is greater than me. So, you know, we cannot make that mistake of thinking that because only the Lord is supreme, I will only stick to him. I will not turn and look at others. This thing we should not do, actually. So that's why sometimes they underestimate or sometimes they overestimate somebody's position. Then it becomes a big problem. You should be very, very careful, actually, especially in dealing with in spiritual life. We do not know actually what is the actual position of somebody who's a nice devotee. We can only, how do you say? We can only make an approximation. Because sometimes devotees, normal devotees, they do all these kind of things, and then you think, oh, this person is, not even on the devotional platform. But then internally, that person may be a top-class devotee. So we have to be very cautious. We always keep praying. And to my knowledge, maximum, the best thing is now to avoid doing something which will hurt anybody. What to speak about devotees. Don't talk, think, or act in such a way that, anybody is harmed. Leave alone devotees of the Lord. That we have to be very, very careful, because sometimes even intentionally, sometimes our actions, they can be considered offensive. So this spiritual life is like walking on a razor blade. It's not easy, Maharaj. That's why we always pray and beg for the mercy of devotees, and we always do this Vancha Kalpataru, that even knowingly, unknowingly, I have offended you. Kindly, please, always consider me your servant and keep me under the shelter of your lotus feet. So this thing actually saves us. This is my understanding. I don't know if I don't know. Was it okay, Maharaj? Or you have something to add? You kindly go ahead, Maharaj.
Of course, okay. But specifically, what is the difference between Yogeshwar and Yogeshwar?
Okay, there are a lot of Shivas, right? That's what you're trying to say, is it? There are many Shivas and many Brahmas in many different universes. So among all of them, Lord Krishna is the origin of that. So that's why he's Yogeshwar. And Yogi, among the different yogis, Lord Shiva is like, one main controller. Is that okay, or is there something else, Maharaj?
It's perfect. Means the connotation Yogeshwar, when we say that among all the yogis, he's the everybody looks up to him, correct? Lord Shiva is the highest yogi. We don't call Krishna the yogi, correct?
Yeah.
But we call Lord Shiva the yogi, and all the yogis, they look up to Lord Shiva.
Yeah.
That's why he Yogeshwar. But Krishna is the Lord of yoga. Krishna is the grantor. He's the controller of yoga, and that's why Krishna was so much in control. He embraced and touched and played and cajoled and did everything with the billions of gopis, and still, Bhagavatam
but still unaffected. Yeah.
There's a word that his Saurata was not disturbed. Whereas Lord Shiva, in spite of being old, because he has so much credential that every yogi thinks that I want to become like Shiva. And still, Krishna being the Lord of the yoga, so without taking full shelter of him, even Lord Shiva, the greatest yogi, could also be better. Something like that.
Yeah, Maharaj.
So to that extent, even the greatest yogi, Lord Shiva, would be subjected. Does not, if even for a moment, even for a few things, if he thinks that, oh, Krishna, please show me the power of material energy, I want to see it. So during that time, he forgot his focus on Krishna. Rather, he readied himself to face the material energy, power of material energy. Actually, Mohini Murti is not material energy; it's Lord himself. Still, at that point, Lord Shiva thinking that, oh, Mohini Murti is most beautiful woman, Parvati is most beautiful woman in the. So, who could be? Can there be anybody more attractive, more fascinating, more attractive than Parvati, and something like that? So it caused the discharge of Saurabh of Lord Shiva. So to that extent, we can see Lord Shiva. That's why he wants to constantly shelter Krishna to remain perfect.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yes, Prabhuji, we may conclude.
Yeah. जय गुरु महाराज श्रील श्रीपाद की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, जय बीए भक्तवृंद की जय, जय चंदन यात्रा की जय। हरे कृष्ण।
His Grace Madan Manohar Prabhu ki jai. Thank you all for joining. See you all in tomorrow's class. Hare Krishna.